Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 77 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish is incredibly unpopular in the aquarium trade and has been called the most beautiful fish in the ocean. And I think when you see it, you'll see why. Today's fish that we're going to be talking about is, the emperor angelfish. So the emperor angelfish, or scientific name Pomacanthus imperator. Again, that's Pomacanthus imperator. Sorry, I'm having a hard time saying it. It is part of the family Pomacanthidae, which is the family of marine angelfish, which should not be confused with the freshwater angelfish, which we covered a while back on this channel. It does kind of have similarities between the two, such as a potential for an elongated pectoral fins down here. So, you know, there are some similarities, but they are definitely different between the two. In terms of where they have a very wide Pacific and Indian Ocean distribution. They're basically found all along the East African coast, all the way up to southern Japan, then south to the Great Barrier Reef. So think basically that entire stretch, that entire African, Asian, and Indian coastline, all the way down to Australia. And even then, there has been recorded specimens as far away as Hawaii. And since 2010, there have been reports that this species is colonizing the southern Mediterranean, they probably came from the Suez Canal, which connects the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean. So that's probably where they came from, but they are considered an invader in the Mediterranean Sea. So, unlike a lot of other things that we have talked about in this channel, this one is actually fairly common. We're not in any sort of danger of these going extinct. Usually we stick with that, but I figured we'd go with a little more interesting and beautiful one that you could possibly have in your aquarium. So, anyway, in terms of the depths and habitats where these found, they're basically found at all depths as long as there is coral there, a coral reef. They've been found at depths anywhere between 1 and 100 meters, which is basically 3 feet to 300 feet. They're found at all of those depths. And these are like the epitome of a coral reef fish. They are found in coral reefs and nowhere else. They might be found in like some of your rocky caves close to corals, but these are basically a coral reef fish. Just, you think of a coral reef fish, this is basically it. And it loves living in the cavities of the reefs. You'll find these in the holes, real hidden. Now, in terms of size, this fish is actually larger than many people think. You know, people see this and they think of the ones that they find in PetSmart and things like that. They're babies, essentially. But the emperor angelfish can get up to a total max length of around 40 centimeters, which is around 16 inches. So it can grow to 16 inches in length. And I've found some stuff that says it weighs between 2.2 and 11 pounds. So it can get up to 11 pounds. I imagine that's a pretty chunky one and probably an overfed one, but that's still significantly larger than a lot of people think. By the way, 2.2 pounds to 11 pounds is anywhere from like 1 to 5 kilograms. As you can tell from these pictures, they have a really deep and laterally compressed body, so looking a lot like the discus fish that we talked last week. And it's hard to tell, but they have preopercle spines, meaning parts of their gill covers are really covered with small spines. We'll see if you can kind of tell in here. It's just really difficult to see them. Swimming dinner plates is a good way to think about it. They do have a small mouth, but as you can see in the picture, they actually have rather pointed teeth. And we'll get into their diet here in a bit, but surprisingly pointed teeth. They also have this relatively large pectoral fins and then a rounded tail fin. You see this very rounded tail fin? and rather long pectoral fins. By the way, these are pelvic fins. I'm sorry, I got this wrong. Elongated pelvic fins. These are the pectorals. They have rather large pectoral fins though, and this rounded tail fin, that's pretty indicative. Then you have this dorsal fin, which is the fin on the back, which is really extended and goes all the way from the forehead all the way back to the caudal peduncle. And then you have the anal fin, which starts about midway on the body and then comes around, and this is pretty indicative of most angelfish, most fish in the family. Sometimes you'll get this little tab at the end, and it'll grow out to a long filamentous, not too bad. But in terms of color, well, let's get a little more detail in the color. And we're going to be talking a lot about the color just because that's what this fish is. That's what this fish is known for. It's gorgeous. So the adults are striped with this blue and yellow horizontal stripes. If you couldn't tell, by the way, that these are blue and yellow horizontal stripes. They have a light blue face, with this dark mask with the blue outlines. It's a little Robert, so got a little bandit going on right here. Then there's this large blackish band right here that it's also outlined in this dark blue line. And the top of this band is, well, it switches. It goes from blue and then it switches to a yellow line. And then if you look at the anal fin, it is really dark, but it has this really light blue horizontal stripe, and the entire finnage is basically outlined in this sort of electric blue line. It kind of does look like an ultimate wrestler. It's definitely interesting. It's got this electric blue. It's just a gorgeous fish. There's no way you can do it. In terms of their diet, so its diet composes of sponges and other encrusting organisms, so things that grow on the rocks. They're actually known to be cleaner fish as well, so they'll clean the parasites off of larger fish. So, you know, they use those little mouths to really get in the cracks and get those small organisms and parasites on the corals and things like that. Something interesting about this fish is when they are frightened, they're known to produce a knocking sound. More than likely, it's probably because from their otoliths. That's where a lot of knocking sounds in fish come from. But, you know, it's not really known. It probably is, I just can't figure it out. But it is when they get startled. That's when they make that sound. When they're they are very popular in the aquarium trade, as we previously mentioned, and they're actually fairly reasonably priced. Sometimes I have found these around $150, but it turns out that some of them can fetch up to $700 per fish. And they're really only used for the aquarium trade. They have an incredibly stable population. They're not really in any danger, but you know, they're really primarily just for the aquarium trade, and they're anywhere from $150 to $700. Now, for the interesting fact that we're going to end the video on, until the 1930s, scientists thought that juveniles and adults were completely different species of fish up until the 1930s. This fish has been known for a long time, since the 1700s. It's a very, very old, well-known fish, but it wasn't until the 1930s that they realized that the juveniles and the adults were actually the same species of fish. And that is because the juveniles and the adults have a very different color pattern. So here is your adult specimen, you know, with the blue stripes, yellow stripes, you know, got the bandito mask, things like that. Well, here is what a juvenile emperor angelfish looks like. And you can see why they didn't realize that they were the same species. They look completely different. Juveniles have this really dark blue body that have these concentric curving lines. And the lines will alternate between a pale blue right there and a white. So you'll have this thin pale blue and then a thicker white stripe. Thin pale blue, thick white. And then they start curving, and then towards the end, towards the tail fin, they'll actually become completely encircled, make a small circle. And then towards the front of the head, they'll be completely straight up and down. vertical at the head. And then also, if you look at the adults, they have this blue line, you know, kind of on the edges of the fins. Well, if you look at the juveniles, it's actually this really, really bright white margin. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, look at the tail fin. Bright yellow in the adult, clear in the juvenile. So as you can imagine, there's definitely I do not blame the scientists for not realizing that these are the same species of fish. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you do, I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Sorry for missing last week. Me and my wife happily welcomed a baby into the world, and so we were taking care of her. But we should be back on this. Hopefully it continues the same. But take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and peace.